Is GPS, the global public square. Welcome to all of you in the United States and around the world. I'm Fareed Zakaria, coming to you from New York. We'll start today's program with two of the world's critical hotspots. First, Ukraine, where President Zelensky admitted this week that the counteroffensive is difficult, as Western officials told CNN that further decisive progress by Kyiv is highly unlikely. So, where does the war go from here? Then to Niger, where a military junta launched a coup 18 days ago. That makes for a six-country belt of coups spanning 3,500 miles right across the African continent. We'll tell you what you need to know about this startling trend. Also, are you amazed by the power of artificial intelligence? Well, wait until you hear about quantum computing. It will make today's AI look like child's play. I talked to the famous physicist Michio Kaku about what he sees as the real game changer. But first, here's my take. In early May 2023, it seemed obvious that the United States was going to face an unmanageable border crisis. In the previous fiscal year, there were about 2.4 million apprehensions of people trying to enter the U.S. at the southern border. And the authorities were about to lose Title 42, the policy implemented in March 2020 that allowed them to swiftly expel migrants at the border as a pandemic prevention measure. But the end of the pandemic meant that temporary power also had to come to a close. In fact, as it turned out, there was no crisis. The number of encounters with migrants at the southern border actually dropped by a third, from about 7,100 per day in April to about 4,800 per day in June, the latest available data. Why did this happen? It seems that the Biden administration's plan worked. It put in place a series of measures designed to deal with the impending problem, chiefly a stiff penalty for crossing the border illegally, deportation, plus a 5-year ban on any re-entry, coupled with expanding ways to apply for legal asylum in the migrant's home country. It was a welcome case of well-designed policy making a difference. But this success does not change the fact that the U.S. immigration system is broken. The crush at the southern border may be less than anticipated, but it's still an influx, and its effects are being felt across the United States. Texas, overwhelmed by the numbers, has famously bused migrants to Washington, D.C. and New York. But the truth is that migrants have been crowding into many major American cities on a scale that is breaking those communities' capacities to respond. The New York metropolitan area has borne a huge burden. New York City is housing more than 50,000 migrants in homeless facilities, and Mayor Eric Adams estimates that this number will about double by 2025. He also estimates that the price tag for the city will be $12 billion over the next 3 years. Each year, that would be roughly 2/3 of what the city budgets for the New York Police Department. New York City is a magnet because after a 1979 lawsuit, it has based policy on the notion that every person entering the city has a right to shelter. Though in fact this right is ambiguous, and if it exists, it applies at the state level, not just that of the city. But places from Denver to LA are all reeling from the burden of this influx. The migration crisis is being exacerbated by politics on both sides. The MAGA right, of course, demonizes migrants and asylum seekers and prefers no solution since a crisis helps them politically. But the far left routinely attacks any sensible measures aimed at curbing the influx as cruel, inhumane, and illegal. Many blue cities like San Francisco have ordinances and rules that force the local government to tolerate homelessness and vagrancy. Biden's asylum policy faces lawsuits and court challenges from several left-wing groups. America's immigration system is broken. Its asylum laws were designed in the aftermath of the Holocaust to allow admission to a small number of people personally facing intense persecution because of their religion or political beliefs. It provided for their residency applications to be evaluated while they were waiting in the United States. In recent years, millions of migrants have arrived at the border, with huge numbers of them claiming asylum. While some might have legitimate claims, most are fleeing the same conditions of poverty, violence, instability, and disease that have been driving would-be immigrants to the United States for hundreds of years. But today, many have realized that if they claim asylum, they get special treatment. Some U.S. officials handling this issue have told me that people are simply gaming the system to gain the best possible chance of entry. The laws and rules around asylum must be fixed so that the immigration authorities can focus on the small number of genuine asylum seekers while compelling the rest to seek other legal means of entry. At the same time, it's important to note that America is currently facing a drastic shortfall of labor and needs to expand legal immigration in many areas for just that reason. We urgently need to attract the world's best technically skilled people so they can push forward the information and biotech revolutions that are transforming the economy and life itself. And with unemployment rates around 50-year lows, it's obvious that we need more workers in many sectors of the economy, from agriculture to hospitality. If this is done in a legal and orderly manner, Americans will welcome the new workers. Biden has tried to work with Republicans on several issues, and he's even had a few successes. He should propose an immigration bill that is genuinely bipartisan and forces compromises from both sides. It would be one more strong dose of evidence that policy can triumph over populism.